Hi y'all, welcome back to another video. So I'm gonna get started by applying this peel off base coat here from Jello. One of the things that I feel like works the best is if you don't apply this product all over the nail. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm leaving a little bit of space around the edges so that when I go to take these off later, it's not super hard and then the remover solution can work. Once I'm done curing, I'm gonna begin applying my gel extensions. Y'all, look what we have here, a new glue. So this one here is from Mia's Secret, and I'm applying everything like normal, putting the gel glue on the bottom half of the extension, and then once everything is all set, I am going to flash cure in my desk lamp for about 15 seconds. I will be using this glue more often so I can get a full opinion on it. Since I've only been using it just this one time, I really can't give you an informed decision, but I will say that this glue is a thinner consistency than the gel glue that I typically use by Ombre, and it's about similar in consistency to the gel glue I was using by McCart. But first impressions, so far so good. So I am going to continue using this product and then I will update y'all on how I feel about it once I've gotten a few more uses under my belt. So next I am going to flip my hand upside down and then apply this Venalisa Temper Top Coat on the underside of the extension. Basically what this does is make sure that there's no sticky layer underneath the extension, so dust and hair and fun stuff doesn't get caught underneath the extension, and it also helps the extension look nice and clear. Next up, I am going to do a little bit of cuticle sealing. So I'm taking some acetone on a flat brush and I'm scrubbing the bottom half of the extension until it starts to melt a little bit and look flush to my natural nail. Since I will be using some sculpting like gel, I don't want any dust in my area. So I'm going to be using a base coat today instead of buffing the extensions or using a sanding band. Once I have my base coat applied, I'm going to cure for 60 seconds and then move on to the nail art. So I will be starting off with some French tips, and for base color today, I'm going to be using this one from D&D. Now, if you're not new here, you know the D&D sheer collection is top 5 for me. I love this collection so much, but if you are new here, basically this is one of my favorite lines of polish, especially from D&D. This is going to be sheer, so it's great for French tips, and I really love this peachy undertone, especially because we're working with a spring flowery type look. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and apply a very thin layer first and then cure in my lamp for 60 seconds. And then here is what one layer looks like. Really, my preference is always not to be this sheer. So I'm going to go ahead and with my second layer now, making sure to keep the coats nice and thin. So finally, I am going to go in with my third coat. Personally, I feel like 2 coats was enough. I don't know why I did 3 coats here, but you know, it's up to you. Now you can see what 3 coats looks like instead of 2 versus 1. You guys get it. So I will be drawing my French tips with this yellow polish here from Born Pretty. And I'm going to be drawing a French tip on all fingers except for the ring finger. When I am wearing a stiletto shape, I like to draw my French tips by basically putting 2 diagonal lines, so one on each side first, and then freehanding my smile line and going back and forth until it looks the way I want it to. So once I have my outline down, I then go back in and fill in that empty space. So now our French tip can come together. So I am going to skip my ring finger because this is where the 3D flower is going to be, and I don't want this nail to have too much going on. So moving on to my middle finger, I am going to finish the rest of my French tips. So I felt like the yellow polish wasn't as vibrant as I wanted it to be, so it definitely needed a second coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. So this look is definitely orchid inspired. So what I'm gonna do is mimic this orchid here, and I'm gonna take this purple pigment powder and I'm going to place it on top of the yellow. But I'm not going to put it all over the nail. I'm basically just going to put it in the corners. So I'm taking this eyeshadow brush that I got from e.l.f. I think it was about $1. if you want to do this, don't pay more than $1 for one of these eyeshadow brushes. But I'm just going to gently pat the powder into the nail. So because that inhibition layer is still there, the powder has something to grip onto. But let's say you used a polish to dry your French tips that is no wipe. If that happens, go in with a base coat, because then you'll get that sticky layer back and then the pigment can stick to the base coat. I did both ways. On my thumb, which I didn't film, I did use a base coat just to see how things went, and the pigment did show up a lot more vibrant, and you'll see that in the final shots. I will kind of point that out at the end, but I wanted it not to be as pigmented, which is why I stuck with the whole leaving it as is. Now, of course, I'm not perfect, so there was some areas that I got the pigment powder outside of the lines, but the cleanup was so easy. All I did was take some alcohol and a flat brush and wipe it away. It did not smear, smudge, nothing. So I do feel like working with a pigment powder is easier than trying to ombre or give the airbrush-like effect with a gel polish, because it just works a lot smoother. So definitely give it a try if you haven't already. But anyway, I'm going to keep moving on, and for my middle finger though, I did decide to switch it up because it is wider. So I only put the pigment powder at the top of the nail, and I did the same thing for my thumb. So we're done with the Frenchies. I'm gonna leave the Frenchies as is. I don't want them to be too overpowering because I really want the focus to be the 3D flower. So before I move on, I am gonna stop right here and then apply a no wipe top coat to all of the nails, including the one that doesn't have a French tip. So now I'm going to move on to my ring finger and begin making the 3D flower now. I'm going to be using this product here by Macart, and basically I'm going to scoop out what I need, and then I'm going to roll the gel glue into a ball. With this product, I highly recommend, no matter what you're sculpting, whether it be a flower, a bird, a window on your nail, I don't know. Just always start off with it in a ball because it's easier to work with than trying to just kind of slap it on the nail and then sculpt it when you need it. So I'm going to use a small ball that's this size, and then I'm going to break it up into smaller pieces. Because my ring finger is not as wide, I don't want the petals to be humongous. I want them to be big, but not super, super big. So I'm going to break this up into 5 small pieces. So you'll see here, I did do a little bit more than 5, and it's because I swear I always lose these little gel pieces. They always fall on the floor, they roll off, they get stuck on something, and then they disappear. So just in case, I have a few extras so I don't have to go back into the container again. What I'm doing here is rolling those little pieces back into the ball shape so that they're easier to work with by the time I place them onto my nail. Now I'm going to be placing my little balls onto my nail into the shape of a flower. So I'm going to basically be using this to create petals. So I don't want the petals to be perfectly centered, and I also don't want them to be perfectly angled with one another. I want them to look kind of unique and natural. I mean, when you look at a flower, it's not perfectly symmetrical all the time, and that's what I want it to look like on my nail. So I'm going to start off with the petal at the top, and then I'm going to create a diamond-like shape with the rest of the balls. And then to squeeze in that last petal, I'm just going to place it wherever there's room, honestly. When you're laying your little balls onto your nails, you want to make sure that you are leaving a small space in between each one so that you have some room to shape and mold your petals. So here is what it looks like once I have all the small balls laid down. And now I'm going to begin shaping and molding my petals. So what I'm doing is taking my silicone tool, placing it directly in the middle of each individual ball, and then I'm pushing towards the center. This tool makes things so much easier because it is doing most of the work, and that way you don't have to do a lot of the shaping and molding, making the process go by so much quicker. So once you have the petals mapped out, you can then start playing with it at this point. So fixing any edges you don't like, making some petals wider, adding a little bit of texture. So just playing around basically until it looks the way you want. So once I have a general, I'm okay with the base of the flower, I'm just going to clean some things up. So zooming in here, you'll see me take the silicone tool, push some petals in, pull some out, add a little bit more texture here and there, just having fun. And then once I'm all done, I am gonna cure this in my lamp. So now I'm gonna be grabbing that same yellow I used to draw the French tips, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint that yellow on the outer perimeter first. Also, I recommend that if you're going to be painting your flower at all, that you use a smaller bristle brush like this one here, because it gives you more control. So now that I have the outline all painted, I'm gonna go ahead and add some yellow in the center of the flower. Now I'm just using a typical gel polish, but if you want more pigment, you could use a painting gel or a more opaque polish. I personally wasn't going for that, so that's why I didn't use one. Okay, now as we do this part, I'm gonna need for you to just stick with me. I know it's gonna look crazy. When I was re-looking at the footage, I'm like, what is going on here? But I promised you it all comes together. It's another one of those trust the process type situations, because as it's coming together, it does look a little messy at first. Could it have been a lot cleaner? You know, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that looks messy until you're done. So stay with me, y'all. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in with this neon purple polish here from Madam Glam, and I'm going to place it in random spots of the flower. I did not cure the yellow polish because I want the polish to kind of blend into each other so it looks more dispersed and not perfectly drawn lines. So as I was looking at this neon purple, it was a little bit too bright, so I decided to go in with a deeper purple. I'm using this one here from Model 1s, and I'm gonna go on top of that neon purple, just kind of dispersing it in the middle of the flower. There's really no strategy here except for place it in the center of the nail and let it bleed into the yellow. So I wanted the purple to be blended out into the yellow a bit more. So what I did was dipped my brush into alcohol and gently pat that purple polish so that it can spread out and blend into the yellow a bit. So now I'm gonna grab this white polish and I'm gonna put a little bit of it in the center of the nail. It's not a perfect circle, but I'm also making sure to use the smallest amount because I don't want that purple to start turning pink. So only use a teeny bit of white. So after I cured, I wanted to go back in around the perimeters with some more of that yellow. So that's what I'm doing here. Next, I'm going to decorate the center of the flower. So I'm taking this rhinestone glue here and laying just a small little dot of it on top of the white polish. And I decided to go in with some gold caviar beads and some golden pearls. So I did play around with this a little bit to see what I liked. And ultimately, I ended up with this here. Next, I am going to go in with a top coat and place that all over the flower. All right, so it's time to do the final cure. And here are what the nails are looking like now. Now, I know on this channel, we typically stick to the neutral looks, but I really enjoyed adding color, y'all. So if you want to see more colorful looks, let me know in the comments down below, and I can definitely start doing that. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so on your way out. But in the meantime, if you are looking for some more nail inspo, be sure to check out one of these tutorials here.